Reading now from the Christian Scriptures and the Gospel of Jesus Christ according to John, chapter 5, verses 1 through 9. The passage is entitled, "The Healing at the Pool." Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the Sheep Gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie: the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for such a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I'm trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." Then Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your mat, and walk." At once the man was cured. He picked up his mat and walked. As we know, there are all sorts of injustices in the world, little ones and big ones. Someone who's big attacks someone who is small. Someone who is strong beats up on someone who is weak. Someone who is shrewd and clever tricks someone who is unaware. Someone with power and position takes advantage of someone who is powerless. The world is full of injustices and bullies in all sorts of disguises. And the saddest part of life for many people is not so much their dealing with these people and things that chase them around like schoolyard bullies, but dealing with them with a sense of being alone, with no one to defend them, help them, stand up for them, or stand by them. The gospel lesson I just read illustrates that reality. Disabled people, the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed, are waiting by the pool for their miracle. One such person, Jesus heals. "Pick up your mat and walk," Jesus says, and immediately the man is healed. It's another miracle story, another happy ending moment. But before we get to that happy ending, we hear from the lips of the man a most tragic lament. "I have no one to help me. I have no one. No one." In that one sentence lies all the misery of a 38-year-old sickness. The man is alone, helpless, condemned forever to be sick. Without someone to help him, he has no chance. In that one sentence, we can hear the sadness and the struggle of life for many. "I have no one," these people all cry out. And because of that, they have little or no chance for a miracle. a cry on the lips and in the hearts of many. Not just those who are bullied by the injustices in the world, and not just those who are afraid. An old person, one of God's precious children, who no longer feels needed or useful, says, I have no one to help me into the pool. And they miss out on a miracle, their miracle. A young person, one of God's precious children, in a crowd but very much alone, laughing on the outside but crying on the inside, says, I have no one to help me into the pool. And they miss out on the miracle. A person struggling with an illness, body and spirit battered, says, I have no one to help me into the pool. And they miss out on the miracle. There are countless people dying the slow death of a meaningless or lonely or struggle-filled or desperate or full of fear life, who are needing a miracle, but who can't find one because there's just no one around to help them. So what does that have to do with us? Well, I say everything. It has everything to do with us. We are a baptized people. We are baptized as God's people in Christ. And on the day of our confirmation, we made a solemn pledge to follow in the ways of Christ, to follow in the ways of God's mighty love. We made that pledge. And that's a love that continues to surprise us, doesn't it? It's a love that continues to accept us, forgive us. It's a love that continues to save us every day. A love that has made all the difference in the world in our lives. And we need that love to live just as much as we need air to breathe. It's wonderful, isn't it? Because of that love, we have embraced the glorious notion that our lives have meaning and value. There are a lot of people that can't say that. And perhaps more than anything else, it also means that we're not alone in the world. That we found someone who has helped us. We have found someone with a miracle in hand. But I'm here to tell you that's not enough. It can never be enough. There's too much hurt in the world for us to keep that love to ourselves. Christianity, at its best, is what you do with your life after the waters of baptism have been poured. After you have confirmed your intention to follow God's ways of love. It calls out from us an answering love. it compels us, because of the difference that God's love makes for us, to let our love in return make a difference in the world. As John Wesley said, our part is to improve the present moment. And as Robert Schuller once said, it is to let our lives be a window for God's light to shine through, and a mirror to reflect God's love to everyone in the world. Emil Brunner wrote this: when a person turns to God, desiring to serve God, God directs his or her attention to the world and its need. Our service to God is found in our service to others. Simple but hard. Our love for God is found in our love for others. Oftentimes, simple but hard. But again, Christianity is what you do with your life after the waters of baptism have been poured. Living for one another, loving one another, can be done in great ways. I think Darlene this morning alluded to some of these great ways that we can affect love for one another. And we can align ourselves with great causes and noble purposes, like those who fought against slavery or discrimination or injustice, social prejudice. But more often than not, the opportunities for loving others and for living for them are done in more quiet and simple ways. Day-to-day ways. People under our roofs and people next door kind of ways. St. Francis de Sales, he wrote this: great works do not always lie in our way, but every moment we may do little ones excellently. That is, with great love. There are all sorts of people who have, as it were, no one to help them into the pool. All sorts of people needing all sorts of miracles. Usually they are the miracles that come on the coattails of love. And how simple can love be? And what kind of difference can it make? Its power is found in its dailiness. Its beauty is found in its simplicity. That's love. George Eliot wrote this: may every soul that touches mine, be it the slightest contact, get from there some good, some little grace, one kindly thought, one aspiration yet unfelt, one bit of courage for the darkening sky, one gleam of faith to brave the thickening ills of life. one glimpse of brighter skies beyond the gathering mists, to make this life worthwhile. It was Friday morning, and the young businessman finally decided to ask his Scrooge-like boss for a raise. Before leaving for work, he told his wife what he was about to do. All day long, he felt nervous and apprehensive. Finally, in the late afternoon, he summoned the courage to approach his employer, and as much to his surprise as to his delight, his boss agreed to the raise. The elated husband arrived home to a beautiful table set with the best china and lighted candles. Smelling the aroma of a festive meal, he figured that someone from the office had called his wife and had tipped her off. Finding her in the kitchen, he eagerly shared the details of his good news. They embraced and they danced around the room before sitting down to a wonderful meal that the wife had prepared. Next to his plate, he found an artistically lettered note that read, "Congratulations, darling. I knew you'd get the raise. This dinner is to show you how much I love you." Later, on his way to the kitchen to help his wife serve dessert, he noticed that a second card had fallen from her pocket. Picking it up off the floor, he read, "Don't worry about not getting the raise. You deserve it anyway. This dinner is to show you how much I love you." Great works, St. Francis de Sales wrote, do not always lie in our way, but every moment we do little things excellently. That is, with great love. And what a wonderful love that was. That man was, so to speak, standing at the edge of his pool, waiting for his miracle, needing someone to love him and to help him. But in the story, although it mattered whether or not he got his raise, I'm not going to say it didn't matter, but what probably mattered more was that he got his miracle. A wife who stood by him no matter what. Right? Softening the blows, healing the wounds, believing in him. Folks, love's power is found in its dailiness. And the beauty is found in its simplicity. The Christian life, for all of us, is grounded in what we do after the waters of baptism have been poured. After each one of us has confirmed our intention to live in God's ways of love. To love others, to serve others, that's our calling. That's it. I could probably go home right now, stay home for the next 52 weeks if you would just remember that. You wouldn't have to listen to me prattle on. Love one another. That's it. That's the gospel. Love all sorts of people in all sorts of ways, in all sorts of circumstances. That's our mission. That's it. May God give us strength to remember that. and the drive to do just that.